Question: with what kind of body was Jesus raised? Answer: Jesus was raised with a body of flesh and bone. Easter is a strange holiday. Our culture celebrates with bunnies, chicks, and eggs. But we know that it is something else altogether. The day that Jesus rose from the dead, the day his disciples found his tomb to be empty, the day 2 women named Mary met him on the road, and the day Jesus appeared to all the disciples in a locked room. But today we ask the question, with what kind of body was Jesus raised? We ask it because even the disciples at first thought that Jesus was a ghost. There have been some people throughout history who claim that Jesus came back with just a spiritual body, one that you could see but couldn't touch. But the Gospel of Luke tells us about when Jesus appeared in that locked room with the disciples. As they were talking about these things, Jesus himself stood among them and said to them, "Peace to you." But they were startled and frightened and thought that they saw a spirit. And he said to them, "Why are you troubled? And why do doubts arise in your hearts? See my hands and my feet, that it is I myself. Touch me and see. For a spirit does not have flesh and bones, as you see that I have." And when he had said this, he showed them his hands and his feet. And while they still disbelieved for joy and were marveling, he said to them, "Have you anything here to eat?" They gave him a piece of broiled fish, and he took it and ate it before them. So when Jesus appeared to his disciples, he said that he had a body of flesh and bone. It was obviously a body that they could see, but he also encouraged them to touch him and see for themselves that he was no ghost. He even ate fish in front of them and invited them to examine the scars from his crucifixion. So our answer makes sense. Jesus was raised with a body of flesh and bone. And that's what we celebrate on Easter. Still, it makes us ask a really big question. If Jesus has risen, what should we do? Well, actually, Thomas, one of Jesus' disciples, gave us a great example of what to do. When he saw Jesus standing in flesh and bone in front of him, John chapter 20 tells us this. Now Thomas was not with them when Jesus came, so the other disciples told him, "We have seen the Lord." But he said to them, "Unless I see in his hands the mark of the nails, and place my finger into the mark of the nails, and place my hand into his side, I will never believe." 8 days later his disciples were inside again, and Thomas was with them. Although the doors were locked, Jesus came and stood among them and said, "Peace be with you." Then he said to Thomas, "Put your finger here, and see my hands, and put out your hand, and place it in my side. Do not disbelieve, but believe." Thomas answered him, "My Lord and my God." Jesus said to him, "Have you believed because you have seen me? Blessed are those who have not seen, and yet have believed." So what should we do if Jesus has risen? Exactly what Thomas did. He believed. He called Jesus his Lord and his God. He knew what Jesus said was true, that he had come to be crucified for our sins and be raised on the 3rd day. Thomas believed the good news and was saved. And if we believe the good news, we are saved too. So in review, question: with what kind of body was Jesus raised? Answer: Jesus was raised with a body of flesh and bone.